my sleeves. You want to call me out? Sit down and shut the fuck up, bitch! Avada Kedavra!
I am sick of this shit. Fuck Wall Street. Fuck you all.
And then the People's Bank of China was, of course, an early mover on the CBDC front with the introduction of the e-CNY or digital yuan. And so I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about what your experiences are and what the implications are for cross-border payments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rod, and thanks a lot also for the BS to give us this opportunity to join you and just to share some of our experiences. And I think really this session is very insightful and meaningful, especially in this, in this transforming world. And actually, PBC has been, actively endorsing the G20 cross-border payment enhancement roadmap, all over these years. And we are just fully back, all the initiatives that has been proposed by BIS. And I know you mentioned retail payment, so maybe later on I could, what I'm answering may be covering both retail and wholesale, and I just want to introduce a little bit, give you such a certain kind of bird's eye view on the whole cross-border, probably thinking and working pattern and roadmap from the PBC angle, and I hope you don't mind about that. And of course, right now, PBC, really, we have many different service providers, and we have, you could say, a very, very large payment service market, of course. And over these years, we have explored in many different angles. So, here in summary, I just want to, address from two layers. And first of all, of course, the PBOC always follows all those common practices and standards, and like what we have proposed from the roadmap, like adopting ISO 222 and extending the operating hours of the systems. I mean, across all those payment systems, operated or overseen by PBC. For example, like HVPS right now is 21 hours plus 12 hours every week. And for example, the SIPS is 24 plus 4 to cover all the working hours of different time zone. And for example, like e-CNY system, which is the most recent system that has been developed by, co-developed by PBOC and the banks under two-tier model. This is since it's a new system, so right now we have just renovated it to accommodate 724. So and also all those systems actually can adopt this new ISO 222 standards, and that is from the common part. And of course, also in the retail side, you have mentioned, we are also just promoting the interoperability across for the cross-border QR code payment, of course, especially across those regions, probably in Asia, which QR code is mostly used. And of course, we this year we also launched a pilot, with Hong Kong MA about Payment Connect, which is a connect between two different fast payment systems. So I guess all this layer actually just touches everybody very familiar with. And the second layer, actually, I would like to touch maybe just mostly focusing on what we have been doing, leveraging the innovation part. Because over these past few years, we have been just deep diving and just keep retrospecting on what is a real problem and bottleneck from the pain points of the cross-border payment. Though I know that G20, the BIS report actually has given us a very, very good summary about the 4 pain points regarding the cost, the efficiency, transparency, and the access. But behind that, we just cannot help but thinking that what is behind this? What is the real logic behind this? So why this is happening? So, and also what kind of new technology could add value, or what kind of new governance and what kind of model could be added to, apart from what we are already doing and what we are familiar with. So that's what I'm saying. And all kinds of new technology actually has been in the stock take. For example, like the AR and AI, big data analysis, and of course you have said the CBDC and the DLT and smart contract and as such, because we know that in this digital world, just whether we want to embrace it or not, we will be pushed to embrace it. So that's why we are thinking it's also very, very important, and to say these CB's services shall evolve. And for those, as what I said, for those 4 pinpoints about the behind the scene logic, actually, personally, I just summarized as such. I don't know, this is representing maybe my own opinions. I would say it may not represent the institution I'm working for. And first, I guess, behind all those 4 pinpoints is, the most important one, utmost one, is probably lack of trust across different, as the cross-border payment actually goes through many different jurisdictions, and traditionally it will go through different correspondent banking, right? And the whole chain actually is, especially the authorities actually just have to probably wait for the reporting, the post-event reporting from all the banks. So every jurisdiction, the transaction touches, there will be certain secret and whatever, and also, and maybe many jurisdictions actually will be afraid of certain kind of like currency substitution and things like that. So I guess building trust probably would be the most important one to address all those problems. And the second actually is about the public sector involvement. Because traditionally, what you have mentioned, in the mobile payment area, mostly actually are the purely scheme from the private sector without any involvement of the public sector. So I guess from our experience that we just feel that public sector involvement would be important to address all those pain points as well. And also, thirdly is about the liquidity result is very important, because it is very important actually to solve those settlement issues using the traditional Nostra account. And also, fourth one probably would be this one would be a new one, because traditionally when we are thinking about payment, actually we are thinking about the channel we use. For example, payment system, actually it's a channel. And nowadays we have the tokenization, and we have the CBDC, and we have the new systems. So maybe we could think of how to harmonize the value and the system together, and in our solution designing. And also, last but not least, is that we feel that the access from the non-residents would be very important. So bear all this in mind, actually, we have been exploring several solutions to echo this roadmap. And of course, we are doing this from 2 angles, 2 legs. And one leg is multilateral cooperation, and the second leg actually is mostly based on the bilateral cooperation. But no matter what kind of leg we are using for the walking, the principles of no disruption, compliance, and interoperability will always be in our mind. And firstly, for the multilateral cooperation, which I think most of you would think of, one important project that PBC has been engaging in ever since 2021, which is Project mBridge. I guess everybody would be very familiar with. Yeah, and actually we have to feel very grateful for BIS actually for this project, because this one actually has been proposed by the BIS ever since 3 years ago, or maybe 4 years ago. Sorry, 2021, yes. And at that time, the 4 jurisdictions, the PBC, HKMA, BOT, and the CBUAE actually have together started this project. And ever since last June, this project has been transacting real value transactions. And I'm happy to inform that right now it is continuously operating, and actually the transaction value is just growing on a maybe 2-digit growth rate, just month by month, right now. And this year, this May, actually, this project has been very successfully graduated from BS. And again, we have to say thank you very much, really. And now this mBridge actually has become the first of its kind as a DLT-based multi-currency, platforming operation backed by central bank money. And now I just want to touch a little bit about how this project actually address all those pain points. Just very quickly. And first of all, how to enhance trust? Well, this governance of mBridge is very unique. It's because it has been based on a central bank cooperating model. But central bank cooperating doesn't mean central bank is taking the role of the banks, but rather actually central bank is building a multilateral international payment system, and you could also say a currency cooperation platform together, just to help them provide easier liquidity solution, and also to provide a higher efficiency. And on top of that, all the commercial banks and the payment institutions can use this platform for the peer-to-peer payment. And also for the access point is that all those different banks, of course, and the non-resident banks can get access, can get on board, and according to the statistics we have been receiving, well, the cost and has been. From the empirical data is the cost could be cut by half, and the efficiency could be enhanced by from hours to 6 or 9 seconds. And also for the interoperability side is that this platform can just connect those payment systems and also for the CBDC system together. And yes.
I think we have
yeah.
to.
He's saying shut up.
And just to quickly summarize.
Saying too much.
So sorry for that. Maybe it's a very long time no see. Just speak too much. Yeah.
I don't know. A couple of you guys, I'm watching the comments, a couple of you guys caught up to some big keywords that she kind of spatted out. But I think that the new world is starting to show where it's going. So she is from the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. This was in May 2024. They are expanding the cross-boundary of e-CNY pilot in Hong Kong, okay? So the interoperability between FPS and the e-CNY systems marks the first linkage of a faster payment system with central bank digital currency system in the world. Now, China is expanding the e-CNY, which is their CBDC, not just for its domestic use within China, but across the border. Hong Kong and China, they're linking their payments together. Okay, they are creating the exact kind of system that Ripple wants to supply the liquidity for. If you caught on to it, she said that's one of the things that we need. The pain point is the liquidity, and the back end of that Ripple system is the bridge asset, and that is XRP's sweet spot. So Project mBridge shows that wholesale CBDC rails can actually be interoperable with each other. But mBridge is only confined to central bank and institutions. Ripple operates at the center of both of them. Okay, it doesn't replace the CBDC rails; it just complements them. And when a bank corridor needs to connect CBDC rails to the legacy systems or move value across different networks, that's where Ripple's protocol and XRP's liquidity can serve as the on-demand connection. Now, I'm going to be clear with you guys. There isn't a public source, a valid public source, confirming that Ripple is officially a part of mBridge or the e-CNY developments. So we're going to be clear with that. But because Ripple's architecture and layout and tech stack is already built for this type of environment, the ISO messaging, the interledger, the liquidity, the routing, it puts Ripple in the prime position, for central banks to want to tap into it if they do want that interoperable bridges. So China is basically showing how the rails are evolving, and Ripple is showing that they can provide the bridges for it. So as mBridge, as Project mBridge, and the e-CNY system start to actually roll out and phase out, I think that Ripple is positioned to plug right into these. Without needing to rebuild everything from scratch, the infrastructure is already developed, the infrastructure is already implemented, it's already battle tested, and all they need to do is tap into it, not rebuild it, not replace it. I don't know if I got into this on the last one. But Project Nexus, did I not get into this one with you guys? Maybe I didn't. There was over 70 countries today with the IPS that enable domestic payments to reach their destination in second at near cost or to the sender or recipient. Connecting these IPSs to each other has the potential to enable cross-border payments from the sender to receipt within 60 seconds. She said 6 to 9 seconds, but come on. What are we picking up the breadcrumbs? Are we connecting things here?
Solve those challenges.
I think collaboration's absolutely the answer to this. I mean, the roadmap was ambitious. It needed to be ambitious. And what was important about it was holistic. It wasn't just saying, oh, it's a technology problem, oh, it's the private sector. It was looking at all of these elements, and it's got regulation, it's got data. And to address this, we need to be acting collaboratively across a number of different sort of groupings. One is public sector, so lots of work's been done by FSB and CPMI, sort of, again, from this building, but also working with other standard-setting bodies, really closely working with IMF, World Bank, FATF. So that sort of public sector piece is key. We need to cooperate with each other, but the private sector is absolutely crucial for this. I think what you'll find looking at the roadmap is a lot of the work has been done now by the policy setters in terms of this is the guidance on how to do this, this is what good looks like for ISO. We now need the private sector to sort of take the tools that have been created and to make the most of them. ISO 20022 is an example of that. Lots of countries have now introduced it, but it's only useful if the private sector use that enhanced data. That's a tool for them. Extended hours, yeah, we can deliver them as central banks. We need the private sector to take that up. So I think that's a key part of collaboration. It also is a chance for me to use one of my favourite acronyms, which is PI, which is around the payment systems interoperability and extension, which is sort of, it was set up under the sort of auspices of FSB, bringing together public and private sector to understand what can be done in the world of the cross-border roadmap. Another of these groups is actually bringing together central banks with a community of practice, so COP, so that's central banks sharing ideas. And some of this we can do together. Some of it needs to be done on a jurisdiction basis. I think we're now at the stage of the roadmap where we need to implement. The tools are there. We need to go and use them to look at our own jurisdictions and think, okay, where are we? Where do we need to get to? Some of those changes will need to be made by a jurisdiction, but learning from others the best way to do it and getting industry involved, that collaboration, but also thinking about things such as harmonisation. That is going to be key. It's key for ISO. We're doing some work looking at actually, can you have greater harmonisation around APIs so that if an API works in the UK, it can also work somewhere else. So that piece and collaborating on ideas is key, but also I think collaborating with things such as this in terms of what can technology do. I mean, we've been learning a lot this morning about AI and how it can use data. ISO 20082, that is going to give shed loads of data. That can give insights into sort of customers to help banks. It can help their straight-through processing. You can learn a lot for economics from what's going on there. So using AI to understand some of this is key. So I think collaboration across the board is going to be key to deliver the change that we all need.
Thank you, thank you. Stefan, turning to you, I'd like to hear any thoughts that you also have on collaboration, but also if we think about if the Bretton Woods Committee was to write its paper today, then it would probably have to consider this third option that Tim raised, this idea of using public blockchains. So if you have any thoughts on that third option, I'd also be interested to hear those.
Well, on that, the issue is always time to market and when to do things. And when you add A, B, C, and D, it becomes sort of waiting for Godot. It will never happen because it gets so complicated and the whole system is kind of redesigned over and over and over again. And having been in this business now for a long time, I've been through various sort of episodes. Then I started something, and it got so complicated, and it took so long to finish it. So you aren't even happy when it actually is finished, because you have forgotten that you started the thing. And Basel III. And now I was happy when Basel III finished. Actually, but the issue is, there are so many elements of learning by doing in this. So once in a while, one has to sort of scale back a bit when it comes to the ambition, because if you're sort of if it gets too ambitious, it gets too complicated, and it never gets done. And one of the risks, and now I think I'm sort of talking on behalf of both. I call them the fiat money team, and the fiat money team, that is essentially central banks and the old banks. Now, all these new IT companies and whatnot. And either we sort of are able to gradually improve on these things, or we are not, because things never ever get done and it gets too complicated, and then it will be handled by somebody else. And that's a sort of a very, very sort of delicate thing to find the proper balance to gradually improve. And that's, I think, really the key to it, to gradually improve, because if it gets too complicated, it ends up being what I call a shelf warmer, and that's a memo written by a central banker, and a bunch of central bankers read it, and nothing ever happens, because it just sits there on the shelf. I don't have the answer to this, but this is sort of very, very delicate. I do think, though, that, and this is really a word from a biased old central banker, that when it comes to payments and cross-border payments, nothing beats central bank money. But to prove our case, we need to move with the times and get things done. But that, of course, also means that we have to embrace new technologies. And some of those new technologies might not be any good, but then when that day comes, we will try to do something else. And here, and this is perhaps an oxymoron, basically, to do these things, and when it comes to cooperation, you have to be what I call a public sector entrepreneur. And that's the hardest thing there is. And particularly if you are a risk-averse central banker. And still you have to find that beautiful combination to make things happen. And basically what the Bretton Woods Committee said was that time is up. Don't kick the can down the road. Don't make it too complicated. Lean heavily on the Business Innovation Hub and get on with it.
That's a good answer. All right, Tim, I'll go to you next. Just a quick. Any other additional comments? I mean, Project Agora is, of course, the definition of collaboration. So any quick comments on what went right and how the lessons of Project Agora can be extended to other applications of improving cross-border payments?
Well, it's key. You get all the stakeholders together in the same room, and you're transparent, and you're honest, and you admit when you're falling behind, and you try to fix it quickly. But you know, I think that the challenge for all of us is the private sector is moving at lightning speed. And I see it firsthand from Seoul to Abu Dhabi to London to New York, for the West Coast. The amount of the speed and the amount of resources going into innovation, whether it's JPM's 15 billion or, you know, just the tech companies, that valuations are going up every day, the tens, if not hundreds of billions that are going into innovation. And if the public sector, if the central bankers, if others don't keep up, they're going to get left behind. And I remind everyone, this whole conversation got started because of Libra, which then became Diem, and that was the wake-up call. And we need to wake up. The private sector is moving at lightning speed. And so our biggest challenge with collaboration is trying to keep the private sector, hold them back a little bit, let us catch up, let us keep going. They've got an array of different projects they're working on. The C-suite's saying invest everything, and if we don't see a quick ROI, you're out, you're in, we're moving here. And it's just moving while also staying sensitive to security and trust, right? Scams and fraud, we have to make sure this is a safe and secure system. So it's balancing the need for time to market, urgency, which I most certainly push, but also make sure we have a secure system that has the trust so that you don't build a system that then people abandon because they don't trust it. But the collaboration is key, and I feel good about where we are, and I think we're going to continue to improve.
Thank you. And then,
okay, basically these the entire panel was talking about collaborations and standards and why it's so relevant and so important. And they're basically saying that this new financial era is not going to come from one actor alone, right? They need collaboration between both the public and the private sectors. They need to have a unification in standards, your ISOs, as well as your APIs. And the need for innovation has to consistently keep expanding so that the private sector doesn't actually outpace the regulations. So what they're saying is that they can't fix the cross-border payments with technology alone. They need coordination, they need collaboration, they need the standards, and they need to work together. So we're thinking about the payments like a highway, right? You could build the roads, but if every country uses different road signs and different traffic rules, the cars ain't going nowhere, right? There has to be a universally accepted rules or standards. There has to be a universally accepted gateways or APIs. There has to be universally accepted laws, as well as the regulators, right, or traffic police, right? And the private builders, which are the technology companies, have to work together with the networks, with this highway network. So when they say if the public sector doesn't keep up, it'll get left behind. And what they mean is that the private sector, or your blockchain companies, your fintech companies, they're out here, they're competitive, they're racing with each other. And the regulators have to build the frameworks fast enough so that those technologies can actually be plugged into them safely. Otherwise, they're going to end up with all of these rails that are way behind regulations. And that's why this gentleman in the middle from the Bretton Woods Committee is saying that it's just got to work, right? We can't get so fixated on it being perfect. It just has to work. That way we can actually have these things to be plugged in safely. Now, when I hear standards, collaborations, API, unified ledgers, I'm thinking of Ripple right away, right? Ripple didn't just come up with the idea of the interledger protocol or on-demand liquidity, right? They built them to connect into these things, into the banks, into the existing rails, into many different crypto networks in a secure, trustworthy way. And as these central bankers start to adopt ISO 222 and start to test and experiment with the unified ledger, then Ripple's architecture doesn't just become optional, but it becomes part of the foundation of it. Because Ripple was always designed to play with others, right? The Bitcoin community supports Bitcoin because Bitcoin opposes all of the traditional finance. But Ripple from Jump Street has always been designed to play with the traditional financial infrastructures, especially the regulated banks. And that's why I think that Ripple is in probably one of the best positions to sit as the gateway or as the player to facilitate this demand and this need. And it's not about them forcing the adoption, right? It's about it being trustworthy and that it's compatible with fintech, but with also traditional finance. And when the standards are voted on and ruled in from the BIS, from the FSBs, and all of the other central bank working groups, those projects are going to prioritize the technology that already aligns with them. What don't you guys understand? They're going to prioritize the technology that is already aligned and suited to be plugged in with them. They've been testing these things since, what were some of the dates that I showed you guys on here? 2017? They've been testing with this? Ripple already aligns with ISO, with the PFMI standards. Ripple already built its connections and its highways, and it's battle tested. And then when you take a look at the Bank of England's pilot, right? When you take a look at the Bank of England's pilot with Ripple, this is where it gives all of the credibility to it. Because when you say that Ripple is the future financial monetary system or the future financial infrastructure, it's not. I'm not just speculating it. I'm taking a look at the experiments that institutions already ran, and these types of experiments are. I mean, you try to find something like this. They're rare. You find them with R3 Corda. Sure, you got XRP in there. You got XDC in there. You got Solana in there. Sure. You find them with Hyperledger. You can find them with the Bank of England. You can find them with the BIS. But time and time again, when you're looking at all these proof of concepts, these pilots, these programs, these test trials, these sandboxes, it comes down to a few players. So you got Project Nexus, Project Agora, you got mBridge. All of them are paths to the system, okay? But Ripple is one of the few that's already been tested to comply with these. And as the central bankers start to adopt the unified ledger and start to connect things, start to connect all these different rails via the APIs, I think that Ripple's protocol and XRP's liquidity is already ready to start connecting and being implemented and issued in. So when I hear tokenization and unified ledger, I know that it's institutional language for the same architecture that Ripple has been building since the start. So let me tie this together for you guys. Over the last, 10 years, right? Ripple's been building in the shadows. 1,700 NDAs, central bank pilots, central bank testings. Everyone's saying what's going on in the price. But there's so much research that no one's really exposing or digging into. Ripple has been behind the curtains building the plumbing for the future financial system to allow money to move as easily as data, right? The Internet of Value. This is exactly what they're calling it. The Internet of Value. So for years, the public has kind of focused on price charts and Twitter and speculative cycles and hype coins. But meanwhile, behind the scenes, Ripple was collaborating with banks and regulators and payment networks to prove how interoperability can actually solve the real world financial pain points that we were discussing earlier. So everything kind of points back to one thing, is that Ripple is not late for the party. Ripple built the house that everyone else is kind of starting to jump into now. The Bank of England tested Ripple's technology years ago for synchronized cross-border payments, and the BIS is doing the same exact thing under the name of Project Meridian FX. The Bretton Woods Committee is discussing tokenized money and interconnected ledgers. That's literally Ripple's interledger protocol in just a brand new car, right? Project Nexus, it's RippleNet without XRP branding. Project Agora is the BIS's version of what Ripple's been demonstrating since 2017. Project mBridge, and Project mBridge is what happens when countries start to realize that when Ripple starts talking about instant atomic settlement between institutions, they're the ones that can actually handle the infrastructure and can actually facilitate the liquidity for it. And here is the icing on the cake. The one thing that ties them all together, the standard, right? ISO 222. Atomic settlement, tokenized deposits, interoperability, unified ledgers, ISO 222. And if only I can think of who built their entire ecosystem around those words before they became popular. I don't know, maybe Ripple did. Maybe Ripple did. Fuck do I know? Everyone's over here fighting about meme coins and hype coins, and Ripple's in the room with central bankers and regulators, helping them test how digital assets can safely integrate in with global finance. And now the same institutions are building Ripple's design at scale. So when you zoom out, I think that it's pretty obvious. Maybe I didn't do well enough of a job connecting it, but every BIS report, every project that we mentioned is just another chapter from Ripple's playbook. The world isn't ignoring Ripple as Twitter or TikTok wants you to think. It's absorbing Ripple's model piece by piece. An XRP, the digital asset that was designed to move on-demand liquidity between these systems, now sits at the center of this multi-trillion dollar infrastructure. Guys, we are entering in a new financial era. This is one where tokenization is coming, and it's coming fast. The settlement is going to be instant. The value of real-world assets will be able to move the same way that information does on the internet. And interoperability isn't just an option, it is mandatory. This is a future that's being built right now. This is not speculation. And I don't see any other project that is targeting all of these besides Ripple. So when people say, why are you bullish on Ripple? The price is duty. What banks are using it? Ripple is centralized, bro. It's 60% of the supply. 100 billion coins, the market cap would be too fucking high. I say that the BIS calls it Project Agora. The IMF calls it interoperability. And the Bank of England calls it synchronization. But to us, it's just paying attention to what Ripple has been doing since the start. This is confirmation that the rails are being rebuilt, and they're being rebuilt in the same exact playbook that Ripple has created since the start. Now that the institutions are actually jumping in and adopting DLT technology, I remember when these institutions were dismissing blockchain technology, telling people that it was a scam, don't get into it, it's not the new financial system, we're never going to use it, the dollar is the king. And now the same institutions that were once dismissing it are literally recreating Ripple's playbook under new names, under brand new names. Project Agora, Project Meridian, Project Nexus, and Project mBridge. All of them share the same goal: instant, synchronized, cross-ledger settlement. And the only difference is scalability. So what started as RippleNet's liquidity is now becoming the blueprint for wholesale and retail finance, adopted by the BIS, adopted by the Bank of the BIS, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the central bankers, taking notes out of Ripple's playbook. And even when we go over to the Bank of International Settlements, ISO 222 upgrade, it shows that interoperability isn't a choice, it's becoming a requirement. Okay, this is mandatory now. Even with the Bretton Woods Committee, where was this? Even with the Bretton Woods Committee, they start talking about these two paths. Okay, Project Nexus and Project Agora. We tied the two together. First, linking the existing systems, right? Let's get that right. And then we're going to move on to tokenizing money on top of the systems. But we have to get the first one right. When we go over to China's mBridge, right? It shows us that central bankers are pretty confident now with distributed ledger technology to settle real value across borders between China and Hong Kong. And every International Monetary Fund, every BIS report, or even the central banks are continuing to just reword Ripple's thesis that if Ripple can successfully move value instantly, securely, cheaply, and trustworthy, I guess would be the right word, no matter the currency or the system, it will be adopted. And what we're witnessing right now is the greatest transformation in generational wealth, a shift from the old system of finance into the new system of finance. The BIS is calling it a unified ledger, but what it really means is one synchronized global system where every transaction can be validated, settled, and recorded across all these different networks. It's a new monetary language that they're calling it the unified ledger. That they called it the unified ledger, but what they're really saying is synchronized global system. And Ripple helped write that playbook. So what I'm thinking is that as we start to watch regulations start to get deployed and integrated in, you're going to see a huge divide in this market. You're going to see a big divide between your speculative, sexy crypto projects and the utility projects that are built for adoption, integration. And I don't know about you guys, but Ripple is not out here for the hype. It's not a hype coin. Doesn't get it's not. You're not going to get wealthy from people speculating on the price of it, right? Price action before regulations is unsustainable. It's irrelevant. The same way that the internet connected to all different types of computers, Ripple's technology is going to connect to all these different financial systems via the Interledger protocol. And now that the institutions are building that Internet of Values vision, they're speaking Ripple's language word for word. The playbook is much deeper than the surface area is appearing. So when people ask, does SRP have a future? What's going on with the price? Oh my God, they released another $1 billion out of escrow. What are we gonna do? We're not talking about price predictions here, guys. We're talking about how the assets can actually function within the infrastructure that they're designed to survive in and to thrive in. The rails are being built, the standards are becoming enforceable, and the systems, the coins that can survive in these ecosystems are going to be the ones that can plug directly into the new financial system under the Bank of International Settlements Innovation Hub's teachings, guidance, coaching. We're not early anymore, but we were early enough just to see it become developed. Ripple's building the prototype, the BIS is scaling it, and the world is about to switch. The world is about to turn on the switch. Doesn't matter if it's the G20, the European, the Bank of England. Doesn't matter if it's the BIS. Doesn't matter if it's the Bretton Woods Conference, Hong Kong Monetary Authority. You name it. All of them are leading back to Ripple's playbook, and it is showing on a global scale. Sounds like Ripple paid you well. I've never taken $1 from anybody, bro. I do this for free. But thanks, brother. That's what research will get you, brother. Ha! Ha! Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to, what is this, episode 3 or 4 of Bully's Breadcrumbs. Hopefully, you guys learned at least one thing new, and that maybe you guys are starting to connect the breadcrumbs the same way that I am. When I'm hearing these terms from the BIS, when I'm hearing these terms from the IMF, when I'm hearing these terms from the G20, I sit there and I go, wait a minute. what exactly could they be referencing here? Because these are regulators. These are global bankers. They are not going to just come out and say, "Oh, we're using Solana. We're going to use XRP." They're not going to do that. When they say atomic settlement, when they say interoperability, when they say we are creating a trustworthy monetary system, this is exactly how you connect it. Take a look at the project. Take a look at what are their goals, what are their ambitions, and what are they striving to achieve. And sit there and wonder, what is going on behind the curtains? Because I'll tell you what, you're not going to find this in headlines. You are not going to find this research in headlines. And I know a lot of you guys are headline hamsters. Headline hamsters. Spinning on the wheel of surface knowledge, but trapped in a cage of headlines. You headline hamsters. But that's okay.